of the business. We now have retail that we didn't envision, but we need to launch. We need a collection, so product to sell. We need a website in order to sell it, and we needed PR to let people know that we were alive because we were building this fashion brand. That forces our hand where suddenly customers start calling in saying, hey, we tried to do a home try-on. It looks like you're out of stock. Could we just come into your office? And we thought, what the hell? Let's do it. And literally, we only invited 5 people to start, figuring that if this was a bad experience, opening the apartment door and seeing a bunch of people sort of typing away on laptops on the couch, the glasses sprayed across the dining room table, a laptop, my co-founder Dave's laptops. It's a different customer. For one thing, the majority of sunglasses are purchased by people that don't need glasses, prescription glasses. Number 2, it's a far less considered purchase. But people buy prescription glasses typically once every 2 years in frame design and sunglass design. And that was, if there was something I wish we did earlier, I wish we did that earlier. It's not that they don't collaborate, but because it's a slightly different purchase process and different customer and different fashion cycle, we want those designers to be thinking differently.
Okay, you could have split it up a lot faster or earlier. Now that you're both virtual and physical, who do you consider your biggest competitor?
Yeah, so Luxottica, I haven't checked their market cap recently, but it usually is between $25 and $30 billion. It's just been, they own Oakley, Ray-Ban, and Oliver Peoples, Persol, and Arnett. They license all these big brands, as you mentioned, like Ralph Lauren, Chanel, Dolce & Gabbana, Prada.
They're at every price point.
Every price point. And they own the second largest vision insurance plan in the country, IMED. Super confused, but at least learned his perspective on the eyewear industry, so I don't think it was like a waste of an hour.
He didn't want to hear.
Not a ton. Oh no, he did ask, what are you guys trying to do? And
how'd you answer?
It was such a crazy question that I said, "Oh, we're trying to build." and I said it like jokingly, like
with that, right?
Right, yeah.
Now, your peer group has changed dramatically. There were those coupon websites, Groupon, for instance. Then there are the flash sites where everyone had to log in at 12 p.m. to get the great deal. Now you've got these subscription models. What do you think the next business model will be for e-commerce? I'm not. I think it is pretty much of decent quality. There's a great professor at HBS that talks a lot about this, Youngmi Moon. Brand treats its employees, all these other attributes, and that's... Now, this is something you referenced earlier on. Your biggest challenge is the one that made your company. GQ went out, interviewed you guys. They published a story about Warby Parker, calling it the Netflix of eyewear, and this was even before your website was operational. So you guys kind of realized that the magazine was going to be coming out in February, and you weren't ready yet. But you scrambled, and you did it, and as a result, you hit your first-year target. To see if you can do it. Just make sure that you're as nimble as you were back in the early days.
I think so. I think that some of those artificial deadlines does create some urgency. On the same token, we do believe that viability is different from industry to industry, and it's much higher than most people. It's also a health product, and we needed a certain amount of credibility. If we launched a website that wasn't working, so we want to get that right. So we spent 1.5 years working on the business before launch, and likewise by focusing and then building on top of it.
So that it's not in beta form, for instance.
Exactly. Or if it's beta form, it's to a small subset of people. They're learning where you reduce risk.
Financially, next year, 2017 and 2018?
So, we're on a path where we're growing quickly and continuing to get more profitable. 84, so it's actually it's gone up year over year for us, and we keep thinking that's going to be harder and harder to keep customers happy as we scale, because there's more touch points, but also all of the time. And when you're top leadership is fundraising all the time, it means that they can't be spending all that time growing and managing.
That would entail going to bankers. What will be your criteria?
We think we'll want to work with somebody that...
We know that co-CEOs don't always have a great track record. Deutsche Bank, for instance, Whole Foods, Chipotle this week, of course, dropped their co-CEO model. How does it work at Warby Parker? How do you guys divide and conquer? How do you make sure that you don't get in each other's way and you make the decisions that are right, but it...
I find that New York entrepreneurs tend to be more practical, which is both a good and a bad thing.
Why is it bad?
Because perhaps there aren't as many moonshots being taken. The system is starting to build, and I think we should all figure out how to foster it and grow it faster. Of the business, I think if we were, a platform or a media company, we want to see.
Donald Trump will be meeting with tech executives tomorrow. It's kind of like he's finally gotten around to the tech sector after meeting with a lot of people in banking history throughout the campaign. What would you like to hear him say that would make the industry feel better about its prospects under a Trump administration?
I'd love to. We saw Warby Parker of underwear, and we just hope they don't have a home try-on program.
In someone's apartment.
Yeah, right, exactly. Don't go.
Totally do this.
None of those individuals, but we once had an idea. We were pitching an idea on, why don't we just create really cool jewelry and necklaces that you could hang in the Valley that has been there, done that before many times, and whether they had their experience at Oracle or Yahoo and are blitz scaling. You generally don't have as much of that.
Right? So what's the most recent idea that you shot down, that you didn't do?
Well, I stole that from Patty McCord at Netflix. I think one of the things that we did, for example, is that we forewent selling progressive lenses, whether that's other apparel and accessories, other parts of the optical industry. There's a lot of contact, way more than my wife would like. Actually, in my closet, I have a special glasses drawer.
Pairs, different colors or different sizes?
Same one.
Okay. How many sunglasses? What's the worst pitch that you ever made? You might not have a lot of failures under your belt, but I'm sure you've made a bad pitch somewhere.
One of the things that we try to do... right, exactly.
Got it. All right, I want to open up the Q&A to the audience. A microphone is coming over to you.
Hey, it was interesting that you brought up Luxottica. About 2 years ago, I worked for an intern. He actually made me do an analysis on ad, but you're not in the organic results for that, but Glasses is and a few other. So I guess I'm wondering,
because last report I got, we were number 2 when searching for prescription glasses, but maybe buy prescription glasses where.
Sir.
Hi. Thanks very much for taking the time and the opportunity to tell everybody your story here at Bloomberg. Scarlett, thank you for asking some great questions. How are you going to bridge the gap between, because I'm not done yet, how are you going to use technology to make that gap smaller?
Yeah, we think that...
I can appreciate where you're coming from now, and so technology should go there.
Well, are there any engineers in the room that want to solve it? There are some... Commercially. So what I mean by that is that your eyeglass prescription is regulated by state agencies in all different 50 states. Often, they're different. So, for example, in some states, your prescription can last standpoint and from a technology standpoint.
Well, to follow on Tony's question, what are you guys doing about it? Are you investing in this? Are you doing some of it yourself?
We have an incubator.
There you go.
Is there a tech incubator for glasses? And everybody else is doing it. I mean, there's restaurant incubators, there's fintech, is there glasses, and is Warby Parker in that game?
We have not launched an incubator, but it's a good idea, and I'll think about it. And if there are particular folks that are very passionate about vision.
Hi there. A quick question about your hiring practices. You mentioned your core values. Really intrigued and at the company.
They're sold at the Union Square Farmers Market, right where we had our first office. That my mom, the name Warby Parker comes from 2 early Kerouac characters. I can go on and on. History of Warby Parker and what we do, but also how and why.
Also of seeing a doctor every year, right?
Well, I think people think I'm smarter when I'm wearing that. Is that people are afraid of LASIK, and it's too sci-fi for them. We're also finding that.
That gentleman?
Yeah, just to follow up to the culture question. I feel like part of the corporation.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and one that we struggle with quite a bit. So one example is that when you come and visit Warby Parker now, we give you sort of a lanyard and a card like all of you guys are wearing. And that we're like, oh man, like I can't believe we have to do that, but we have to do that now from a security standpoint. But can we inject a little fun into that where it says like, I'm a visitor, say hello to me or something, and have like a nice map. You know what? One of our core values is to enroll with change, but we have to welcome and embrace it. And part of that change is becoming a bigger company and a different company. One of the things that I was always so afraid of was, what if we have multiple locations? How are we going to maintain our culture? An office there. 4 of our New York employees were the first employees down in Nashville, and that helped us spread the culture there like that to sort of maintain the culture.
Marcos in the front.
Yep. Hi, I'm Marcos with Digital.NYC. I'll stay on the culture thing. Can you talk a little bit? Can you address that?
Sure. So we're a certified B Corp. Which means that should they be testing from a subject line perspective or what have you, and help set goals. So we try and involve everybody.
It's the school bus that's traveling across the country to like say hey to folks in person. What does that look?
I think it's recognizing what's the fuel for this rocket ship, and Adam Grant, a professor at Wharton, often talks about how happiness equals reality minus expectations. So as an organization, we recognize that expectations are rising, and as Dave and I are farther away from some of these decisions, could decisions be made just in the name of financial systematically?
All right. We want to thank Neil Blumenthal, Warby Parker, for his time, for being so game to answer all our questions. Thank you so much. And I want to hand things off to Renee from Cornell Tech for our closing remarks this evening. Renee?
Just one final remark from Cornell Tech tonight, and thank you, Bloomberg.